Hello everyone, welcome back to the D&H Solutions Lab. With you once again, my name is Matt Allison, D&H's Microsoft Technical Advisor, and I'm pretty happy to be here because I have a pretty easy one for you today. We're going to talk about the latest incarnation of Microsoft Office, specifically Office 2019. So, for many customers, Office 365 is probably the way to go. You see, it is the most secure, it's the most intelligent, and the most collaborative plan that's available out there today. However, moving to the cloud for most customers is a journey. And for a lot of your customers out there, they might still be working in a hybrid environment or entirely still on premises. In our research, that is a large majority of the customers that are out there now. So to support those, Microsoft has released Office 2019, which is basically a subset of some of the features that have been available for Office 365. Today, we're going to talk about the different versions of Office 2019 that are out today. In other words, how you can purchase it and which specific Office products are included with which ones. Some of the more nuancy gotcha things that you should know when buying Office 2019. And then we're going to go into some of those new features, some of the more visually striking ones, and some of the stuff that can really pump up productivity and collaboration within an organization. So without further ado, let's get started. So there are two different ways to purchase Office 2019 today. They would be either retail or FPP or full packaged product, or buying it using the open license program. Retail, there are two different versions that are out today. That is Home and Business and Home and Student. Home and Student includes Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. And Home and Business includes those four, but adds Outlook. So as you can imagine, that's more for your, of course, email, client management, and scheduling. So of course, that would make more sense in your Home and Business option. Open is where it gets a little more interesting. You have three different versions available in the Open program. They are Office Standard, Office Professional Plus, and Office Standard for Mac. Now keep in mind, if you have any customers that are looking for previous versions of Office for whatever reason that might be, they are no longer available as of the taping of this video. But you can purchase Office Open licenses, and you can use simply the downgrade rights to install either 2016 or a previous version if that's specifically what your customer is requesting. But keep in mind, you do need to purchase the 2019 license from now on. So we have Office Standard and Office Professional Plus in the world of Windows, and they include Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, Publisher, and Outlook for Standard. And Professional Plus includes each of those and then also adds Access and Skype for Business. So obviously that is the big one right there. Most businesses are really going to benefit from the collaborative abilities from Skype for Business. And of course, Access is traditionally included in the professional SKUs for those customers that use it. Finally, rounding up the open licenses, there's Office Standard for Mac. This one is an abridged version of the same standard SKU. It includes Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote, and Outlook. So just a couple of things to keep in mind if you are planning any Office 2019 deployments. First of all, this is only compatible, Office 2019 is only compatible with Windows 10. That's the big one. So if you have any Windows 7, Windows 8 deployments, keep in mind 2019 will not work for those deployments. So that's number one. Number two, there is Microsoft support included with all of these SKUs for 60 days after purchase, and that again is included in the cost. And finally, there is no internet access required for this whatsoever. That means that you can even install this in a system that is completely bereft of any internet access, and you do not even need to activate it. So obviously, the product does find a niche there for any sort of remote installations or rural installations where internet is not great. Here is your solution. Finally, keep in mind, although Office 365 is certainly where Microsoft has put their focus, this is, and Microsoft has confirmed, not the final on-prem version of Office. So this is still part of their progression. You should plan on seeing another on-prem one after 2019. So keep in mind that this family is still alive. Okay, all of the T's and C's, all the important jargon is out of the way. Let's get into the fun stuff. This is where we're going to go over some of the more these are some of the features that have just been added to 2019. Some of them may be familiar to you. They've been available in the Office environment for a little while, but for any 2016 or 2010 users, these are all brand new things that really up your productivity and collaborative abilities with the Office suite. Let's get started. So Excel 2019 certainly brings a lot of new features to the table. I would say right out of the gate, it's much better at analyzing the data that you have entered into it and then spitting out more visually pleasing and more understandable charts, maps, and that sort of thing. But specifically, there are a few more charts and maps that are now available that never were before. First of those would be the funnel chart. Essentially, once you have your data entered, you can select what data you want to create a visual representation and click on recommended charts, and it'll show you different ways of doing that. So for our simple, sales pipeline data here, we can have that showed as a cluster bar, as, another column chart here to show each one, a pie chart, or a funnel chart. So this is the new type of chart you can add into any of your spreadsheets. The idea here is to just show what has, built as the greatest priority and what needs more of a focus, let's say. So this data isn't necessarily representative of what a funnel chart, ultimate data should be for a funnel chart. But I just wanted to show you visually what it looks like. Just like any other object that you add to an Excel spreadsheet, you can make all kinds of changes to it. For example, you can click up here to simply change the layout. This is, merely just adding, the axis title there. This is removing the actual axis labels and so on. Up here is your actual formatting. So if you want it to visually look a little bit different, you can always do that. Up here, change colors is exactly as you would imagine it would be. Changes, the colors that you're using inside your chart. So pretty straightforward. If I had more data here and it wasn't giving me the proper chart, you pick select data up here to really specify where that's coming from. But pretty straightforward. That's your funnel chart. Next up, I want to show you maps. So specifically what I want to show you here is a new feature in Excel 2019, which are two-dimensional maps. So here I have some simple data. This is world populations as well as a percentage of world population. I'm not even going to select it. I'm just going to put the cursor up here in A1, and I'm going to go to Insert and Recommended Charts again. And you'll see right about here, it already suggests a map as one of the options. Now, if you didn't go to Recommended Charts, these, by the way, are all your different charts that are available here. You can drop down and select different formats. It'll show you an example, as you can see. Specifically, though, what we're doing is a map, a filled map. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And right, without me really making any adjustments at all, excuse me, you can already see it is essentially, color coding where world populations are. So, of course, there's the biggest population in the East with, some here in the Americas and Russia. Again, I can change the formatting of this so that, for example, our legend is at the top. I can change the background color, so however visually I would like to represent this map. Same thing applies as far as your color choices. That really can bump it up a bit. And again, if I wanted to show different information, for example, when it automatically generated this map, it used the world population numbers, the actual hard numbers for each, for the world population. If I'd like, I could change that to the percentage. So I simply just remove world population, and then it goes by percentage. And again, it's visually going to be represented about the same, but with less specific information. As you can see, if you hover over the individual countries, they will show you the individual data that comes from them. So if that wasn't cool enough, that is our two-dimensional map option. We also now in Excel 2019 have the option of 3D maps. So I'm over here at some more sample data. This is sample sales data. Available throughout the country here. These are random dollar values associated with customers in certain parts of the world. Basically, you can take this data. This would be generated from, say, your invoicing system or what have you. pop it into a spreadsheet, and get a visual representation of where your business is coming from. So all I'm going to do is just put the cursor up here in A1 again, select 3D maps, and it will automatically open our 3D map editor. As you can see, it's populating this data as it comes in, and we can actually manipulate our map here, zoom in to individual areas, and find exactly where each of these sales are coming from. If you hover over it, it'll actually tell you, the name of the individual and the address and any other pertinent information. But this is just part of it. You have a bunch of different three-dimensional map options when you come into this editor. Honestly, each of them are similar, and with this data, personally, I found that they were all very similar until I came across heat map. Now, of course, some of these maps, especially bubble, with different data would work a lot better. Larger bubbles representing, larger values, that sort of thing. But what I want to show is the frequency of sales in any geographic location. For that, I love this heat map feature. First of all, I think that's visually pretty neat. It's something that, in our industry, you've never been able to do before. But look at this. You can find out exactly where all your sales are coming from. Take this information, and you can actually go from here and pop a screen cap out of it. So let's say I just really want to see where most of my Midwest Chicago business is residing. I can take a screen cap. And now I have this information to present in a presentation or something like that to my sales staff. Pretty neat stuff. So these are all features that have been available for a little while with other versions of Office. They are brand spanking new with your Office 2019 installation. And for a lot of customers, this is definitely going to up their capability as far as reviewing their own personal sales. Now, I do want to stop for a moment and point out here that some of these features do require internet access. As you can imagine, in order to actually bring up, the mapping information, especially if you didn't notice at the bottom, all of those are powered by Microsoft Bing. So you need to be able to connect to the internet in order to generate those maps. Let's move on to our next favorite application from the Office suite. That would be Word. There's not a lot of fancy new features, but there's a few I think that are pretty neat. The first one that Microsoft is touting a lot, because I know people have been asking for it for a long time, is the black mode, black edition. So in order to turn that on, so you know what I'm talking about here, you go to File, you go to Options, and right here under the General tab or pane, whatever, you would select Office Theme. As you can see, there are 4 different Office themes, everything from colorful to dark gray. I actually really like dark gray. I'll show you that real quick. That's the one that I usually run. But this is the new one here, black, which just makes everything dark. So that's all. The other thing that Word 2019 now does is text to speech. And so this obviously has a lot of different applications. Let me show you a quick demo. There you go. You just simply put the cursor anywhere, go to Review, and Read Aloud.
Welcome to the D&H Solutions Lab covering Office 2019.
It does a really, really great job at, dictating, what you're trying to do. Let's talk really quick about PowerPoint. As you can see, as soon as I changed the theme in one Office application, it did in the next, so that's why we're also looking at the black here as well. PowerPoint, I think, has, above and beyond any of the other applications, really, really pushed it as far as its capabilities. It's no longer the generic, simple presentation decks that you'd create. You can do some really visually striking stuff now with PowerPoint. Sometimes you can do it automatically for you and don't even really need to spend some time. Otherwise, it is an application that if you put some time behind your presentation, you can really come up with some neat stuff. So let's give you an idea. So for the easy side of that equation, where you just kind of let PowerPoint do what you want, I present to you the idea of design ideas. So this is something that you will probably notice automatically if you use PowerPoint 2019 or 365 at any point that you add anything to your presentation. It is constantly sort of looking at it and providing examples. One of the things that I think is pretty easy to visualize is, let's say you just have a handful of pictures, but you don't really know how to design it yet, how to put this whole thing together. All you really need to do is just insert them all into the page. As you can see, they're all flopped on top of each other. But then immediately, Design Ideas pops up here. It gives you another suggestion here for alternate text, but specifically Design Ideas. So as you flip through here, notice how it just kind of puts them in different places, gives you different ideas. I actually personally think this one's kind of a neat design. Oh, I put the logo in twice, but you get the idea. And then all you got to do is type in a title. I spelled that wrong. Title and subtitle and so on. Really, really simple. You can then take this concept, this design core idea, and move forward. Next, we're going to go into some of the more, like the visual side of what makes PowerPoint 2019 really powerful. These are things that you can add to any presentation. The first is a really fun new transition called Morph. So I have a blank PowerPoint deck here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a picture to it. I'm just going to go ahead and add our D&H Cloud logo. I'll get rid of these boxes in the background here. As you can see, Design Ideas are already popping up. What I am going to do is I'm going to show you what it is like to use Morph. So now we have this main logo here in the center. Let's just say that I wanted to use this logo as sort of a visual icon that sticks with my presentation, moving from place to place and sort of guiding my viewers' eyes to the next object in my presentation. Okay, this is just for added bonus. You can use Morph. So the first thing you do is you duplicate the slide that you're on, putting that same image on 2 different slides. And then on the second slide, you manipulate that object or image or whatever. So in this case, I'm going to shrink it down, and I'm going to move it up here to the upper left. Simple, right? Then I simply select Transitions and select Morph. And that is essentially what it will do. I can show you here if we blow up presentation. Oops, sorry, I'll start on the first. And as you go to the next slide, it does that. Simple. All I did was click Morph, and now I have that added feature. So now, I can add additional, I can add like text box here, and really kind of pump up visually what happens. I can actually add this as an additional transition. So let's say I want it to fade. Sorry, no, that's not transition, that's my animation rather. So this here, I just want to fade in after it moves up. I simply select fade on this object. Let me see, if I bring up my animation pane, this will actually show me which animations are happening, which transitions are different, of course, than animations. Transitions are the animation between slides. Animations are those that are happening on the click within the same slide. But again, so now my logo moves up to the upper left-hand corner, and my data or my text actually fades in. And you can do this step by step. If I wanted to have multiple text boxes here with information, and I can have them, as you see, it automatically put in 2 different animations, 2 different fade animations. So now moves it to the upper left, and then the first, and then the second. So I did that in seconds here as I'm just showing you. Really neat, really cool stuff. But that's just the start of it. PowerPoint, in my opinion, has gone to the whole next level with the introduction of 3D object manipulation. So let's stick with this same slide deck. I'm going to add another slide here. But this time I'm going to add, instead of a picture, I'm going to add a 3D object. So you click down and from a file, because I am going to specifically pick one that I've already designated for this training. So the object is inserted into our presentation. And you can find these anywhere online. There's lots of different libraries where these are free assets that you can simply download. You can create your own, or as you can see up here, you can actually add some of the ones that are built into PowerPoint itself. But once you have an object added to a slide deck, you can manipulate it all over the place. So as you can see, I can change this as I'm looking at it, left and right in every direction. I can make this window larger, which will make the 3D object bigger. And from here, I can even zoom in. So if I want to say, show off the antenna, for example. And so this is neat, right? Yep, we have a 3D object. We're able to flip it around and look at it within our document itself, within our PowerPoint deck. But that is just part of it. This manipulation that I'm doing can then be included or utilized as part of my presentation in a form of animation. So let's start with, let's just say like this. There's the Millennium Falcon in all its glory. So now I'm going to duplicate this slide once again. So I have that same 3D object on the next slide. And on this one, I'm going to turn it off to the side like this. And I'm going to shrink this down a little bit and zoom in right to the cockpit. Then following our discussion of the cockpit, I want to just simply talk about the landing gear, whatever the case might be, or the ramp that leads up there. I could do all of that. Sorry, I'll make this a little bigger, and I will zoom out a little bit just so this is just all on the screen, like so. Anyway, so as you can see, same object, 3 different slides, 3 different positions on the screen, deliver to you different options in creating a presentation. So I think this 3D object manipulation brings a whole new tool to, let's say, the traveling salesman, somebody who's peddling their wares and that particular product that they're selling is just too large to simply bring with them. Let's say it's a car engine or an air conditioning unit or something like that. In this case, they can bring a PowerPoint deck, which normally, snore, but this way it gives a real visual connection to it. Let me show you what I mean. So we, manipulated this 3D object into 3 different positions. We're going to be using the Morph transition along with the manipulation of those objects. And I ask you to imagine, because it'll take a little bit too much time if I were to really worry about the design here, by advancing slides, it actually rotates that object in real time to show individual things. Of course, we could have another one after this that zooms into individual objects and then back out again. As you can see, I go to the next one, and it brings us to the next position of that 3D object. So we have gone over, like I said, a subset of some of the newer features that are now available for Office 2019. The last thing that we're going to do, though, is we're going to talk about a feature that was available a few years ago for Windows 10. Office 2019 now has a number of features taking advantage of it. I'm referring to Windows Ink. So Windows inking, or ink, or whatever, is really just the overall term used for Windows conversion of handwriting to computer objects, things that you can manipulate and edit within the system itself. Inking works really well with OneNote, for example, for handwritten notes. It works really well for Post-it notes and handwriting recognition in those cases. But we're going to specifically talk about Word and just understand that the logic and the actual conversion from handwriting to computer object is going to be the same across these products. So let's get down to it. I'm going to take my keyboard off of my Surface here just so I can get it a little closer. And I'm going to take my stylus. Now this is a Surface stylus. It's a really excellent tool. It allows you to do different pressures. As you can see, depending on how hard I push down on the pen, I have different thicknesses. It's pretty neat. Let me start a new one just so it's blank for everybody. But ultimately, what we're talking about here is handwriting and handwriting recognition. So in general, Windows 10, this is a Windows 10 function, but Office 2019 utilizes it, is the handwriting recognition for the general sense. So for that, I'm just going to simply tell it that I'm using a stylus. I can do that by tapping anywhere on the screen with the stylus, as it just did, or I would actually select Draw up here, and I would click on the Select icon right here, so I have my arrow. As you can see, as I bring the stylus closer, I can move the arrow out here, which gives me a cursor icon. If I tap there, it gives me this. This is my handwriting recognition window. So I can just start writing "Hello World" from D and H. I think the "and" might, I was gonna say the "and" might have a problem there. Let me put it another way. I think my handwriting isn't the best. So I find it impressive that Office can understand me. As you can see, at the end there, I was really just trying to mess it up there. So you see, even period, and I can keep going. And so this is a truly, I think, advanced level of handwriting recognition. And again, this exact same tool is available in OneNote, just for you to sit there with one hand and just start writing, and then it puts the actual text in the document itself. But it doesn't end there. Let me put the cursor down. Okay, the next thing that we'll show in Word here for inking is ink to shape. This is pretty self-explanatory. This is if you ever want to add a shape to your document and you don't want to search it down, or you just want to get it in, you can easily add shapes. For example, triangle. Here, let's see if I can do a little more of a isosceles triangle. Anyway, but there's triangles, you got ovals and circles, and rectangles, and even my favorite, a rhombus. Point is, though, if you can draw it, you can easily manipulate it and throw it into the document here. Let me go ahead and move my cursor down a little bit, because the last thing I'm going to show you is what I alluded to earlier. So as I mentioned, you can add all kinds of different symbols into your Word documents with Office 2019 that allows you to add equations. Inking just basically brings that to a whole other level. So you select up here Ink to Math, opens up this Math Input Control panel, and all we're going to do is right here, we're going to write in what the equation might be. So let's choose everybody's favorite equation. There you go. And as you can see, it recognized it immediately. I just click Insert, and now I have Pythagorean's theorem right there in my document. And I mean, you can do that with a lot of advanced maths too. So if you're writing, a report, let's say, and you need to add mathematical equations, you can put sines and cosines and limits and basic functions, the different types of brackets. It's really impressive stuff, and it is very quick. As you could see, it's just as quick as if you were adding your own text. You just start manipulating and start writing, and the words appear on the screen. Okay, so that about wraps it up for our Office 2019 webcast. So first of all, thank you for being here. Let me make something perfectly clear. We did not cover every single feature that's available in Office 2019. That list is pretty extensive, and we went over some of the ones that we felt were visually compelling, at least for this video. That said, there are still lots, including sharing, lots of additional features using a digital pen like this, as well as language translation and things like that that are new for 2019. We want to talk to you about any questions you might have. We want to talk to you about these other features. So if you do have any questions, make sure you please stick around if you're watching this live. Following this webinar, right away, we're going to go right into a live Q&A. So any questions we'll be able to address. Myself, I will be there from a technical perspective. We'll also have people available to answer any sort of licensing or purchasing questions that you might have about the product as well. As always, if you have any questions and you're watching this on demand, you're welcome to email us at solutionslab@dnh.com. And until I see you all next time, have a good one.